Hi everyone, welcome back. We're playing Corsair Leader. Are you ready for some gameplay? Let's get cracking. So, pre-flight. First thing we need to do is draw some target cards. We're going to have a primary mission. Every day, one primary mission. Our primary mission is given by a target card. So, for example, in day one, we took on some light bombers. It's possible we'll have a secondary target, one secondary target. Okay, so that would be our primary and one secondary. We could just have a primary and no secondary, right, but that was our mission last time. Remember, these targets reflect the campaign that we're on. Alright, how many cards do we draw? We draw from the target deck, and we have something called a recon value. For the beginning of the campaign, these two tokens will sit here. Recon will say, what's the maximum number of target cards I can draw? Up to 2. Now, the end of day one, these tokens got moved. We completed this one, we scored 2 victory points, and Recon moved by 1 space. We completed this one, we scored 1 victory points, and Intel moved by 1 space. At the moment, there's no change, right? These, once we get up here, so after this, potentially, if Recon goes up 1 more, then we get to draw up to 3 target cards. And then when Intel starts moving, we have fewer sites, fewer bandits that we have to face. Alright, so that's where we are. So start here with these tokens over the text. Right? And then move them up as these things indicate. Right, so this says we can draw up to 2 cards. And then choose a target. So let's draw our target cards. We can draw up to 2. If we draw 2, we can then look at them and choose one, okay? But we have to draw them one at a time because there's a keyword. If we draw this and it's got the keyword scramble on it, that means it's like an emergency. We have to go straight away to that target. We can't draw anymore, irrespective of our recon. Okay, it's like, come on, all hands down to the pump. We've got to go now. Let's scramble and leave. Okay? If there's no scramble on this, then we can draw again and potentially pick from the 2. If it has a scramble, that's our primary target, right? Makes sense? Okay, let's draw. Oop. See what we get. Okay, it's a destroyer. So it's target number 32, which is all the way up here. Now this makes a difference. The further we go, or the different zones that we have to go into, will mean our pilots will incur different amounts of stress. Stress is bad. Stress impairs our ability to perform. So this little bunch of targets here have stress 0. We see these 4 numbers, that's good for us. That's good for our pilots. 32 is stress 2. It's a difficult mission. Right, makes sense? It doesn't have a scramble on it. It does, however, have the secondary keyword. What this means is, if we draw another target, then we could potentially choose this other target and then choose this as our secondary target. Remember, every day it's 1 primary, 1 secondary, unless we've had to scramble and we didn't have an opportunity to pull a secondary. Make sense? Alright, so here we go. We've got up to 2 targets. Let's draw this one. Assault troops. Oh, and it's scramble. Okay, so what does that mean? It's got scramble. This has to be our primary target. There's assault troops on the ground. Position number 3, which is all the way up here. This is also a stress 2 zone. And then we have the option to add this destroyer as our secondary. Now what's important here is that the pilots we take to do this can't be doing this. All right, there's 2. These kind of happen simultaneously. So we've got 2. We're going to split our squadron into 2 groups. The maximum number of aircraft we can take is given by this number here. So we can take 6 aircraft here and 2 here. That's 8. That works out alright actually, because we've got 8 aircraft. Alright, so that might be okay. So why don't we try both? This is the number of hit points they need to take to do damage. This one's going to give us 5 victory points. No recon or intel bonus, but it will give us a bonus to gung ho. This one's going to give us +1 to our recon and 1 victory point. These other numbers tell you what bogies we've got to face, what bandits, what defences, and then we've got some keywords here that we're going to have to deal with. So we've already dealt with scramble. We've got to use this as our primary target. We've already dealt with secondary. we have the option of adding this as a secondary target. We put our secondary to a side for now. We're going to face our primary target first. Obviously, when we play the game, we play out sequentially, even though they thematically happen simultaneously. Let's write this down then. So, target number 3. Now, one thing to note, although this is my secondary target, okay, 32, I could have just stopped, because I drew this one, I could have just stopped there and just treated this as my primary and not drawn that second one, but I wanted to look ahead. Alright, there we go. There's my primary target. Another thing to note is you could choose not to draw any targets during a day. You could treat it as downtime. You can rest your pilots up, go straight to a mission debriefing, carry that out, and then skip a day. Alright, primary target going in the center area up here. Each target shows 2 areas. It's got the target area and the approach. And what it says is how many sites are at target, how many sites are at approach, how many bandits are at target, how many bandits are at approach. Okay, so target, the 2 in yellow, these are the center area. This is what's going to be here defending. We're going to have 2 sites and 2 bandits. There's 4 approach areas, north, east, south and west. Here's our cup or our bag of bandits and sites. Alright, so at this point we're placing sites. 2 sites in each one. So just randomly draw, and we're just going to place 2 chits in each area. Start with north, east, south and west. In the centre area, it's also 2. Alright, so another 2 for the centre. Now we need to turn these so that they're sight side up. Okay, that's a sight, that's a bandit. Okay, so we've got some riflemen here. 2 lots of riflemen. On our approaches, we got a heavy machine gun and some riflemen. In the east, we've got a special site here, we'll come to that. No sight. We drew lucky, there's nothing here. Flip these 2 over, we got a light machine gun and some riflemen. And then in the north, no sight and some riflemen. Okay, these no sights, they go back in the cup or the bag. Now this has worked out pretty well for me actually. Special sites are normally something good. So if we go back to our token box, there's a bunch of 5 special token chits. And we'll replace this with one of these 5. Which one? We don't know. So we'll give them a little shuffle up and grab one. Okay. Fire director. What this says is if we destroy this, all sites get a -1 on their attack rolls. Okay, when we're over the target. So put the others back in our chip box. This goes back in the bag. We don't have to take that down, it's an option. But it might help us with these 2 if we want to take these out. Next in our pre-flight, and incidentally, there is a chart down here, so we could be a little clever here. Use this to your advantage, alright? So we've drawn target cards, we've selected a target, determined and placed sites. Next step, step number 4, assign our pilots. So we've got to decide which 6 pilots we're going to take, or up to 6. Now let me just throw another thing in here. During the campaign, you're going to be drawing event cards. Okay, these are 2 event cards that I drew on day 1. Once during my primary, once during my secondary missions. Each event card has 3 parts. We're going to look at that in a minute. But there's some effects that are ongoing that I need to be aware of when I'm choosing what I'm going to do. It says during the next mission, and I'm looking at the bottom part here because these were drawn on my homebound. You look at the bottom. During the next mission, the first 5 rockets purchased cost 0 SO points. And this one says, keep this card. When a pilot suffers an MIA result. Instead, return the pilot to your squadron with +2 stress. Okay, missing an action. The more significant one at this point is this one here. At the start of the game, there won't be any events in effect for you, right? But, and this is why I started on day 2 really, I just wanted to show you as the campaign progresses, different effects can get layered onto the game. So the game does develop. So it starts off kind of a little bit vanilla on day 1, but then these events come out, pilots pick up stress, pilots get evolved, events change things up as the campaign progresses. Be aware of it. Now let's say I take these 6. Let's say we take our 4 Corsairs and our 2 B-25s. Okay. Okay, we're done. Okay. Next step, arm our aircraft. So before we even begin, the last thing we do in pre-flight is we're going to prep all these aircraft, arm them up. Now, one thing I told you at the beginning of part 1, which is when we did the setup, was about the random setup and how when you do a random setup, chances are you're going to get all Corsairs. And that I kind of think of these as fighters, we got our bombers and we got our dive bombers. So the 2 Avengers I'm using to do that naval mission are 2 dive bombers. But the thing about the Corsair, if you don't have any bombers or dive bombers, they're a very versatile aircraft. How you arm your aircraft, including your Corsairs, reflects the type of combat role you expect your aircraft to perform. For bombers, it's straightforward. You expect them to perform a bombing role. What you'll notice is that the Corsairs have this weight point 2, okay, and they can carry, and it says you can see 250, 500 here, 250, 500. These are bombs. Bombs have a weight. This number here, the 2, how much capacity do they have to carry weighted weapons like bombs? If an aircraft is carrying 0 weight, then it's considered an escort, a fighter escort. You might say, well, this bomber here could have 0 weight points. Does that make it an escort? No. In the air-to-air, this is their air-to-air, this is their air-to-ground stat. In their air-to-air stats, if you see a number in square brackets, then it's a bomber. The Corsairs all have their air-to-airs, no square brackets, right? They're not bombers. They're not inherently bombers as long as they're carrying 0 weight. As soon as they get weight on them, as soon as you load them up with weighted weapons like bombs, it becomes a bomber. All right? So the Corsair can be one or the other. It could be an escort or a bomber. The B-25s are always bombers. Make sense? Okay. So if we wanted to, if we had only Corsairs, we could choose to have 2 as escorts. We won't carry bombs, and we could choose to put 2 as bombers. We'll load them up with bombs up to their 2 weight. Do you see? These guys have got maximum weight of 3. They can carry 250, 500, or 1,000 pounders. Okay, these bombers can carry heavier bombs. They're always bombers. Their air-to-airs are in square brackets. Cool. Alright, so the Corsair is versatile. It can be one or the other. We're arming our aircraft right now. We're deciding what combat role we want each of our planes to perform. Look at their different stats. So I can see that the top is not very good air-to-air. Madman is. Figueroa is not strong air-to-air, nor air-to-ground actually. Sakamoto is strong. So I might say, do you know what, I'm going to have these 3 as escorts and I'm going to use top as a bomber. Okay. Any planes with the large keyword, like these B-25s, they also are, like these B-25s, they're also bombers, okay, by virtue of having large. Irrespective of weight, they could have 0 weight, irrespective of their air-to-air. If they're large, they're a bomber. And this is important when we get to combat. When we get to combat, I want you to remember, I want you to think of bombers and escorts. Bombers and escorts, all right? When we get to combat, it makes the whole thing a little bit more straightforward. The other thing we can see is some of these pilots have got these 1s on them. This is their stress. This is stress they picked up during day 1, actually. And these stress values affect their performance. So if you look at figure R, for as long as he's got 0 to 2 stress, he's okay. But when he gets 3 stress, he's shaken. And that affects his abilities. It affects his dice rolls. And that's why from mission to mission, you need to look after your pilots. And versatility counts. The Corsair was incredibly versatile. The fighter-bomber version, the -1, carried bombs, napalm, external fuel tanks. The Corsair was deadly in air-to-air with an 11-to-1 kill ratio. These gull wings meant, if you can picture, the landing gear was in this lowest point, which meant it could accommodate a much bigger propeller with lower drag and high maneuverability. And we're going to put it through its paces in this mission and just see how versatile it can be. So we can see that the Corsair can carry rockets, napalm, a drop tank. So these are the different types of bombs. 250 on the reverse is the 500. The 1,000-pounder on the back is napalm. There's rockets, TT rockets on the reverse, torpedoes and drop tanks. So drop tanks, if carried through the entire mission, pilots suffer 1 less stress. There's a weight of 1. These numbers in top right, these are the dice rolls that you'll perform to do the attacks. Underneath in this black circle, this is the range. So bombs have a range 0. You drop them in the area where your plane is. The rockets have a range 1. They can attack a target in an adjacent area. The 250 and the napalm, they have a black S. These get a bonus against soft targets like those riflemen. The yellow S on the rockets, that's a suppression stat, suppressing an enemy site's attack against you. The L at the bottom says these munitions can only be used at low altitude. Now there's an exception. If you look on the B-25, it's got this level keyword. Level and large. Okay, large means it's a bomber, remember. Level says it can do bomb attacks from high altitude. Okay, so these 3 can be dropped from high. Large also gives a bonus. The first damage suffered each mission has no effect. Alright, it's so big. Okay, so the first damage, no effect. Right. So that's level and large. Napalms and rockets are considered special weapons. Not all missions allow those special weapons. If you look in the bottom right, it's a say yes or no. So it'll say napalm yes, napalm no. TT rockets yes or no. Right. So for this first mission, all of the special weapons are usable. Drop tanks aren't special weapons. But the significant thing at this point is the weight. So a B-25 with weight of 3 could carry, with a weight of 2 and a capacity of 3, could carry 1,000-pound bomb and 1 500-pound bomb, for example. We'll look at these in more detail when we get to them. But if you let's compare the 3 bombs. Why might you have a bigger bomb than a smaller? It's these attack stats in the top right corner. This one only has 1 number. It can do 1 hit. The 500-pounder has got 2 numbers. It can do 2 hits. And then the largest has 3 numbers. It could do 3 hits. Now this is hugely significant. Imagine doing 3 hits when we need to get 6 against those assault troops. Right, we drop a bomb on this, do 3 hits. That's 50% of the damage we need. But we need to roll greater or equal to a 10 on a 10-sided die to get those 3 hits. Right, that's a 1 in 10 chance. But this is where gung-ho can help us. Foster Goldman's used his gung-ho, so not very likely for him. But there is an opportunity over here. Alright, anyway, well, I'm jumping ahead. These are all the sorts of things I'm thinking about when I'm loading up my planes. So I've got to get 6 hits on that target. If they can get 2 each, well, that's pretty good. The rockets, by the way, these are Tiny Tims. Alright, so they're different numbers. But they cost SOs. Tiny Tims and rockets are considered special weapons. These cost SO. Alright, remember special lot points. Okay, we started with 20. Non-special weapons don't cost SO, so your bombs, your drop tanks, they don't cost SOs. And this is where this is coming in, right? This one, rocket attacks. During the next mission, the first 5 rockets purchased cost 0 SOs. Okay, so that's useful. So remember I told you in part 1, save some SO. You'll need them for special weapons. I mean, we could be cheeky and just do this. Our bombers can't carry rockets. We could fire them all. We're carrying weight now, so we're not considered escorts anymore. And I could be really horrible and do this. Oh, I hate it. What a dreadful weapon napalm was. Well, let's assume we put this here on top. This is going to cost 2 SO. It's 1 SO per weight point. Okay. And I think we're going to give these both a 500 pounder and a 1,000 pounder. Hopefully do the 6 damage we want, and we'll have top spend the 2 SO. So on your player sheet, make a note. Top is spending 2 SOs on mission number 3. And that's going to come off our total at the end of the day, what we've got left over. Now, for the sake of making sure we're not caught with our pants down, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put 2 rockets here. Alright, we got the weight. We got the weight capacity. And we'll see how that changes things up. So now we're done. We're all armed up. We've chosen our pilots for our mission. But remember, we've got 2 missions. We've got the destroyer as well, and these are happening simultaneously. So we do have to choose our aircraft and arm them simultaneously. Okay. Now, obviously, we've got our 2 Avengers, right? So those are the 2 that are coming in for mission number 2. There's a maximum number of 2 aircraft, so we're definitely doing that. And they got 2 weight points each. I'm going to arm them both with torpedoes. You'll note that the Avengers can carry torpedoes, rockets and drop tanks. Torpedoes have got this N on them. They can only be used against naval targets. Our destroyer is a naval target. Alright, so we'll see how that works a little later. Next thing, situational awareness. We've got 1 aircraft that has situational awareness. That's Leyland Top Gilton. So I'm going to give him 1 SA token. We'll talk about what that means, but now's the point you assign 3 things. Situational awareness, which is expendable. Our flight leader, so our flight leader is the pilot with the highest level, so that's Sakamoto. We'll explain what this means later too. And we assign Gung Ho. Now you'll notice some pilots have Gung Ho used. Actually, just one of my pilots has Gung Ho used. That means that it was used on a previous day and wasn't recovered. And you use a token here to record this on your pilot card. So remember, some have bonuses, but you're going to go down and just check everyone's level of Gung Ho, and then you assign Gung Ho tokens to them. So Manly's got a Manly's got a Gung Ho. So's Guadagnino, and so has Top. Okay, so they get their Gung Ho tokens. Now I've not placed the aircraft yet, so I'll just keep them back here. Right, so I've assigned Gung Ho. Foster Goldman would have, but he spent it last time. He's got this token, so he doesn't get a Gung Ho token. Right, he's got 1 Gung Ho already used. So we've assigned situation awareness. We'll give that to Top. Gung Ho and flight leader. For my secondary mission, Baker's got 2 Gung Ho. Bear Grimmond has 1. Okay, we're done. That's all of our pre-flight done. So next stage, we're going to go into target-bound flight. This is where we head off. Now, the first thing it says is we draw a target-bound event card. There's spots on the boards for these cards. I'm going to draw an event card. It says Flight School. Now remember, this is our target. Number 3, assault troops. Flight school says freely give a pilot in your squadron 1 skill. Brilliant. Okay. So this is this squadron, this target, not our secondary one. Everything now relates to our primary mission, the assault troops. So I'm going to have a look, like I said, look through the player skills, the pilot skills rather, and see what you want to do. I fancy giving attack run to Foster Goldman. I want to try and make certain of this attack, and they've used their gung-ho, so we're going to do attack run. You'll see how this plays out later. It's an expendable skill, so it's going to be a one-time use. Okay, that's our event done. Now we place aircraft. This is where we make some decisions. Now it feels like a bit of a no-brainer because we've got ground sites defending the west, the east and the north approach, but nothing in the south. So I'm probably going to come up from the south. But when you're planning your mission, where you want to deploy your aircraft, any of these pre-approach areas is where you want to go. So I'm going to place everyone here in the same pre-approach area. But you could spread them out. We're all going to fly in together, bombers and escorts together. But there's a second part here. Not only do we choose which of the pre-approach areas we want to use, we also have to fix their altitude. Planes can come in high or low. This is important because apart from our dive-bombing Avengers, once you fix their altitude, they can't change for the rest of the mission. They stay high or they stay low. Now, these site defences are low. If we fly in, that L on here at the bottom right shows that if we're low, we can be targeted. If they had an H on here, that would mean they could target aircraft at high altitude. Right, so we could come in east and west and all be high, and then we couldn't be targeted. Now, we're a little bit limited because of the way we've armed our aircraft. You'll notice that our munitions have a green L at bottom right as well. These munitions can only be used at low altitude. Now there's an exception. If an aircraft has the level keyword, like our B-25s, they're the only ones, they have level and large. Level means they can drop the bombs, 250, 500, 1,000 pound bombs at high altitude. But when they do so, they subtract 2 from its attack roll. So why don't we make everyone low, apart from Foster, we'll make high, just to show you how this works. Okay, so Sakamoto is going in low, everyone's going in low, apart from Foster. Okay, so these tokens are just double-sided, high on one side, low on the other. From this point onwards, remember, we're doing just this one mission. We'll do the destroyer one separately and later. We've done the initial pre-flight simultaneously. Everything from this point downwards we do sequentially. Okay. Step 8, determine and place bandits. So now we do this part. We look at our bandits. We've got 2 on the target area, 1 on each approach area. We go back to our bag and we start drawing bandits. Two for the target area, and then we'll go north, east, south, and west. 1 in each. Okay. This time they're the plane side up. And this one has no bandit on it. Okay. Now notice it has all the graphics and everything because it shows you which bandits, which year, everything else, so it has to be in the bag. But if you see the no bandit banner, it's like the no site, we'll put that back in the bag. Right, so there's no bandits in east. Next step, Intel Air Defense Adjustment. There's no change. You remember our card. No change. If there was an Intel change, -1 site, -1 bandit, that kind of stuff, you would select counters you wish to remove. Intel has allowed you to remove those things. Draw over target event card. We get another event card. This time we're looking at the middle section. This one says suppression attacks inflict +1 stress. Okay, that doesn't help us. It's early morning, suppression attacks cause us stress. Keep this here to remind us. And then finally, place the turn counter in the number 1 box. Up here, we're going to have 5 turns to complete our mission. And this is where we go over target and the action really begins. Join me next time then as we take on some bandits and try to take down these assault troops.